During the making of my video, The Politics of Kamen Rider Black Sun, I had to step away from the editing bay from time to time given how depressing the subject matter was. And luckily for me, I had the perfect distraction, and it was something that I've been itching to have in my collection for the longest time. And it's this bad boy right here. Let me show you. Yeah, that's pretty much Discotek's release of Space Sheriff Gavan on Blu-ray, and today we're going to be talking about this release and the show in its entirety, so sit back, relax, and let's see if Uchu Keiji Gavan is worth a watch in 2023. Let's go, guys. First, let me start by saying that for a Toku show that's as old as, it's as old as I am, Discotek did a really good job remastering all 44 episodes here. The colors are vibrant, the shadows are dark, everything is well defined, and nothing suffers once Gavan gets in gear. The fine folks over at Blu-ray.com have some lovely screenshots here that back up my point entirely, especially once Gavan deploys some of his patented finishers. However, the magic of digital remastering does have a way of making dated effects feel more dated, namely when Kenji Oba is seen here doing a Raiders of the Lost Ark. But I'm an old millennial, so no harm, no foul. Secondly, the special features are awesome because, for one thing, we get a fantastic essay from Vintage Henshin's very own Mike Dent about the behind-the-scenes history of Gavan's production. In addition, we get a lengthy interview from the Japanese Blu-ray release featuring Gavan's action director Osamu Kaneda, who's currently the head of Japan Action Enterprises, Gavan's suit actor Jun Murakami, and the man, the myth, the legend himself, Kenji Oba. I found this interview pretty fun since it's like having a beer with your boomer relatives while they recall all the stupid shit they did in their youth. Though, to be fair, things do meander here and there, but that's par for the course. Overall, these are great features to have from Discotek, so don't skip them. Lastly, I'd be remiss to not talk about the audio because it's phenomenal. The sound effects are devoid of any echo, it's all in sync with the action, and the music is clear, crisp, and punchy, like any 80s Toku show should be. Overall, Discotek did this show proud with a fantastic remaster, especially if you compare that to what's currently out on Toei's Tokusatsu channel on YouTube. But does all this AV Club goodness speak for Gavan's quality as a TV show? Let's dive in and find out after these commercial messages.
Now, 先進のエレクトロニクスを内蔵。光とサウンドでパワーアップ。完全武装電子ギャバンコピーより完成。君の手でエネルギーオン。ハイバリアンもよろしく。
Well, folks, it's high time we talk about why Gavan is worth a watch for 2023, but I need to do a few things first. First of all, today's video isn't meant to be a way for me to punch down on younger Toku fans, especially those that are more inclined towards modern versions of Super Sentai and Kamen Rider. It's getting easier and easier to be a Toku fan nowadays, which means it's also easier to make friends and enemies in our favorite internet hell sites. I'm personally more inclined towards 70s and 80s Toku, but trust me, I learn more and more about the newer stuff thanks to younger fans whose passion for the medium continues to defy everything I've internalized over the last 3 decades while being a closeted fan of Japanese superhero shows here in the States. And as many younger Toku fans can attest, sometimes the Showa stuff doesn't always cut it. There's a lack of explanation for things, the effects can be very cheesy, the plots aren't intricate, and the gender politics can be really dated. Gavan in particular embodies a great deal of these flaws, but for me, its execution, production design, and overall devotion to dynamic screenfighting is what set it apart from its peers at the time. So let's start there. Gavan's plot is super simple. Gavan is a space sheriff, or Uchu Keiji, from the planet Bird. The son of Tamiko Ichijoji and Uchu Keiji Voicer, played by the late great Sonny Chiba, Gavan is sent to protect Earth from the evil space empire known as the Maku, led by the nefarious Dawn Horror. Gavan's allies include his superior, Commander Chom, Marin, Commander Chom's assistant, and Mimi, Commander Chom's daughter, who disobeyed orders and stowed away on Gavan's ship to be with him. Along the way, Gavan, who goes by the name of Retz Ichijoji on Earth, protects the planet with the help of these two kids, Tsukiko and this asshole named Kojiro. I absolutely hate Kojiro, and every time I see him on this show, I wish I could run his leg over with a snowplow and force him to walk the I-275 barefoot. But hey, life ain't fair and I should probably seek therapy. In order to fight Dawn Horror's horde from hell, Gavan's got a badass ship, an awesome dragon robot, his rad bike called the Siberian, these cool vehicles that come out of nowhere midway through the season, and his most important weapon, his Granium combat suit. During the brainstorming sessions for Gavan, Mike Dent noted that the design team wanted something that would appeal to an older crowd, eschewing the bright colors that were commonplace for Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, and other Toei Toku properties with something sleek and high-tech. Coupled with the henshin sequence created by Den Film Effect, the team behind Ultraman Specium Beam, and an arsenal straight out of Star Wars, Gavan was aimed at revitalizing Japan's Toku landscape by capturing the sci-fi crowd like never before. Yet despite all the technological wizardry that Toei's production team dished out for Gavan in 1982, the show's most memorable special effect for me came from the one and only Kenji Oba. Gavan is full of the kind of 80s sci-fi schlock that I dreamt of as a kid, but next to the spaceships, lasers, and suit fights were some of the fiercest, meanest, and most dynamic fight scenes to ever come out of a lead tokusatsu actor. Kenji flipped, fell, jumped, tumbled, and swung in week and week out without any visible stunt double. And he did this while delivering the kind of fight scene ferocity that would make Sonny Chiba proud. And if you couple that with how well he and Jun Murakami mirrored each other's movements, then you've got yourself one hell of a stunt duo. The big reason why Kenji's physical performance was so amazing in Gavan is because Kenji is, first and foremost, a stuntman by trade. After joining the Japan Action Club, or JAC, as a teenager, Kenji plied his craft under the venerable hands of JAC's founder, the late Sonny Chiba. Kenji would work various jobs in Toei productions, ranging from Jidaigeki films to cop dramas and more. Hell, if you look real close, he's also in a few Sonny Chiba films. And like many other JAC stunt performers, Kenji had various tokusatsu jobs, from cameos and bit parts to full-on suit work. Kenji soon found himself in starring roles for the Super Sentai franchise, including Shiro Akebono of Battle Fever J and Daigoro Ome from Denji Man. But for all the grunt work he's done over the years at Toei from a film and TV aspect, Gavan is Kenji's most recognizable role, and it seems to be one that he's very fond of playing. Despite his work on other films and shows, his attachment to Gavan is deep, and that's totally apparent whenever he's at the convention circuit. And so much of that legacy is built on that one-of-a-kind hero performance. Sure, he's not the best actor, and Gavan's plots aren't the most mind-bending out there, but for a kid's toku show from the 1980s, Kenji gives it his all. Now, we'll get back to some more Kenji talk later, but now let's talk about some pros and cons here, because truth be told, Gavan isn't flawless. Plot-wise, Gavan is as easy as it comes. Every week, Dawn Horror hatches a plan to conquer Earth and make it a part of his space mafia empire. Luckily for Gavan, Dawn Horror seems to just operate in Japan, so all our hero needs to do is cut out of work early, hop a ride on his red Suzuki, and scope the area for weird shit. From there, he'll infiltrate a stronghold, beat the bejesus out of the mooks, transform, fight, get transported to another dimension, fight spaceships in space or fight the monster on a matte painting, eviscerate said monster, and everything goes back to normal. Now for those of you that are more accustomed to Heisei Kamen Rider shows, I get it. This sounds pretty boring and pretty formulaic, but for somebody like me, the main attraction here are the fights, and there are so many fights here that it's not even funny. And furthermore, the unmorphed fights are pretty much the big highlight for me. If anything, things seem more formulaic once Gavan transforms, because despite his henshin being 0.05 milliseconds, the show always repeats that henshin again, and I have no idea why they chose this sound effect once he raises his hand. The suit is great obviously, but the action soon becomes a formula once he rides Dole, as he does the same set of attacks on every episode. But once that's done and he's back to fighting the monster of the week, the variety kicks in again and he ends it all with Gavan Dynamic and a blood-curdling scream coupled with an explosion. And all this action is set to some of the best music I've ever heard from an 80s Toei production, thanks to Chume Watanabe and Akira Kushida, setting a tough yet funky tone to some of Gavan's greatest hits, including the opening theme. However, Uchukeiji Gavan wouldn't be what it is without the one and only Mimi. She's smart, she's fashionable, and she's also got that but like many tokusatsu heroines from the 1980s, she's relegated to being a helper or a damsel in distress, and that sucks. Mimi's bright, bubbly, and cares a lot for Gavan, but I kinda wish she did more in the action department. To be honest, the women in Gavan usually don't do that much fighting in general, save for one villain with a very tragic backstory in episode 28. This might be why I'm more of a fan of Gavan's other ally, Marin. Like Mimi, Marin is still playing subordinate to a male on the show, but when she's called upon to help, she's steely, direct, and independent. Hell, she even makes Mimi jealous once Gavan is fatally poisoned in episode 5. I know it's the 80s and all, but the relegation of Gavan's female cast to that of the Help is a bit sad because once the Metal Hero franchise got into high gear, we saw way more female inclusion in the action department, especially when it came to shows like Scheider, Spielbahn, and Jiraiya. This leads me to the next topic of this video, and that's the show's cons. But first, let's take a commercial break and we'll get back to that.
Gavan トップセンサー登場。シルバーメタリックも鮮やかにレーシングメーター搭載。ダッシュ君は今ガバントップセンサー。ゴーグル5もよろしく。
Welcome back everybody. Now, as much as I love Gavan, I do have to be honest and talk about some of my gripes of the show, and there are some. Now, I've already alluded to a few of them, like the lack of female action and Kojiro, but the one I'm going to talk about now relates to a certain special effect that's overused a great deal here. Gavan uses a lot of special effects that seem very dated for 2023 standards, and I get it, right? But the show's overuse of reverse playback can get really tiresome at times. You can totally see it right here. This happens a lot in Gavan, and even though it isn't a deal breaker for me, it can get old real quick. And despite Gavan's fantastic musical score, there's one song I really hate, which is kind of weird coming from me since I downright love cheese. I was born in the early 80s, so believe you me, I like cheese so much I'd rather have a red brown sandwich than a grilled cheese sandwich. But this song is so goofy that it hurts. Yes, I know, it's meant to set the tone whenever Gavan thinks about his great space sheriff dad, but isn't that a bit much? I mean, how about a song about his mom? In addition to these, Kojiro comes off as a perv at times, and that isn't a good look for a kid's show. These all sound like nitpicks, but they pale in comparison to what I think is Gavan's worst episode, which is so bad that I'd actually recommend everyone to just skip it. And that episode is the Diamond Heist plot in episode 22. In it, Gavan tries to foil a jewel heist by Golden Mask, a master thief who's trying to get revenge on the Maku and steal back a rare diamond that belonged to his dad, who used to run an African diamond mine. The show tries hard to garner some sort of sympathy for this guy's plight, but I'm not so sure if I care since his dad is literally a thief stealing African wealth for himself. Anyways, the diamond is in the Maku's hands, and both Golden Mask and Gavan have to get it back. But first, the Maku hold a show to commemorate the diamond, and it's as racist as it gets. The Maku henchmen are dancing, drumming, and yelling in full-on blackface. It's so fucking bad that by the end of the episode, you'll wish that this Diamond Thief's getaway boat gets blown to bits. But with an episode like that, it's easy to forget that Gavan is full of better ones. So here are a few of my favorites. In episode 21, the Maku are promoting a dance school that's said to cure any illness, and it's run by none other than Machiko Soga herself. Machiko steals every scene here with stuff like it's a batshit episode that not only shows how crazy the Maku are, but it also does a great job of making Kojiro look like a moron. As usual, all hell breaks loose once Gavan finds out, and it's up to him to take down Machiko Soga's plot once and for all. In episode 15, Gavan's desperately trying to find a young girl that's trapped in an interdimensional city created by the Maku. But in order to do so, he has to face all sorts of bad guys along the way. This is where Kenji Oba shines because the fight choreography here is fantastic. Not only is this episode frantic and action-packed, it also gets really funny once Gavan meets clones of his friends and things get real crazy.
Oh, Mimi! この草っていうのになんとかこしてんだよ!
Episodes 36 and 41 are also personal favorites of mine thanks to its fast-paced and furious action. Not only is Kenji Oba doing less acting and more brawling, but the Gavan suit fights are top tier. As mentioned previously, in episode 5, Gavan is struck down by a projectile filled with a poison that's equivalent to 200 cobras. With Gavan at death's door, Mimi sends Gavan's test results to her father in Planet Bird, pleading for his help. Commander Chom identifies the toxin and sends Marin out to administer the antidote to Gavan. It's probably one of the few episodes showing how close Gavan is to being beaten, but it also shows how much his teammates care about him. So much so that both Marin and Mimi butt heads throughout the rest of the episode. Now if you're looking for an episode filled with drama, then episode 43 has got you covered. Gavan finally reunites with his dad, played by the legend himself, Sonny Chiba. And although that dumb song shows up at the end, it's entirely earned thanks to the weight of this episode. It's gripping, it's dramatic, and it's a must-watch for any fan of Gavan. And finally, my favorite episode in all of Gavan is episode 39. Yeah, can you believe that? Episode 39? Okay, let me explain. A local kid's house is taken over by the Maku as they set a trap for a hero, who's helping a local girl's physical rehab at the park next door. Now, I adore this episode to bits because it mixes action, it mixes humor, and it kind of mixes situational comedy because the episode pretty much devolves into a full-blown hostage crisis. The monster of the week is a total asshole. The kid's trapped in an unwinnable situation, and both his parents and Gavan are too dense to know what's going on. And it's all punctuated with my favorite suit fight of the entire show, making episode 39 my top recommendation for Gavan. But with all that said, is this show still worth your time? Let's take one more commercial break before we decide once and for all.
超次元高速機ドルギラン電子製銃ドル搭載今奮い立つデラックス超合金ドルギランコピーより発売中
Is Space Sheriff Gavan worth your time in 2023? Well, that depends. If you're somebody that's more accustomed to the pace and visual flair of Heisei and Reiwa Kamen Rider shows, then I'm gonna be really honest. This might not be your cup of tea. Gavan's formulaic plots and simplistic drama won't stand a candle to the intricate battle royales we're seeing from Kamen Rider. But if you're somebody that's willing to dive into the history of how Toei's tokusatsu IPs evolved in the 1980s, then Gavan is most definitely worth your time. It's a time capsule into the more action-oriented offerings of the 80s that's punchy, funky, and full of cheesy sci-fi goodness. And if you're somebody that's grown up with the show, whether you're from Latin America, France, Malaysia, the Philippines, or Indonesia, then you already know that Gavan is a big deal.
行くぞ光を超えるぜ到着ほらうわーうら行くガバントゥキガバン
In March of 2023, Hiroshi Watari, the actor of Den Iga in Sharavan, posted a blog about his time at Toei's Genealogy of Heroes exhibit that ran from February 23rd to April 9th, 2023. It's an exhibit filled with suits, photos, diagrams, and props of everyone's favorite Toku shows from Toei. And one of its centerpieces featured a suit exhibit of Aka Ranger from Go Ranger, Kamen Rider Ichigo from Kamen Rider, and Gavan himself. To me, these three shows are Toei's big three when it comes to tokusatsu, and they paved the way for three franchises that continue to live on to this day. And this legacy wouldn't have been possible without the dynamism of both Kenji Oba and Jun Murakami. Their blood, sweat, and tears made Gavan into an international sensation, and it's high time for North America to give these two their dues. This is especially true for Kenji Oba, who's a hell of a lot more than the dude who had a cameo with Sonny Chiba in Kill Bill. To me, Kenji, Jun, and Gavan are the granddaddies of the Metal Hero franchise, and without them, we wouldn't have had Shadovan, we wouldn't have had Scheider, we wouldn't have had Spielbahn or Metalder, and we wouldn't have had Jiraiya. Hell, we wouldn't have the VR Troopers or the Big Bad Beetleborgs. And whether it's through games, figures, films, or even your two favorite Frenchmen spinning house records, Gavan's legacy is here to stay. And that also includes the formulaic plots, the lack of female action, and the racism of episode 21. If you're someone that's seeking to know this history, warts and all, then pick up Discotek's awesome Blu-ray release today and find out for yourself why Space Sheriff Gavan is a Toei timepiece of tokusatsu action. Well everybody, this was a lot of fun, so thanks a lot for watching and staying to the end. I want to give a big shout out to Blu-ray.com, Hiroshi Watari, Jun Murakami's Twitter account, and Mike Den and all the other awesome people that worked on the video essay for Gavan. I also want to give a shout out to all our new subscribers to the channel, and I also want to thank all you Gavan fans out there for just being awesome people. There's so much awesome stuff about Gavan on the internet, so if you've never watched Gavan, like, don't sit around, get this Blu-ray, support Gavan, and check out all the cool stuff that's about him on the interwebs. I mean, he's so awesome, to me at least. Lastly, if you're a longtime fan of the Metal Hero franchise and have something to say about Gavan, let me know down at the comment section below. Thanks a lot guys, I hope you had fun, I had a lot of fun. I'll see you again on the next video. Later.